Working in sports media has slowly evolved from reporting objective facts and stats to criticizing everyone and everything that has to do with sports. And criticism comes in a variety of forms, from op-eds team reporters constantly crank out to the daily talking head sports shows you see on ESPN and Fox Sports 1. Okay, that one's not real, but my point still stands. Sports criticism has evolved into its own lucrative industry, and with the introduction of social media in recent years, not only has the industry grown, it's become toxic. According to Syracuse communications professor Alex Dunbar, platforms like Twitter and Instagram have made it easier for trolls and opposing fans to taunt players openly and directly. And what's worse, those same players can't do much about it.
I think it's tough, and I think for a lot of professional athletes, they are seeing like they can put their thoughts out there. They have this venue to be able to do an unfiltered view of their thoughts. But in their mentions, they're also getting fans who are doing the same back to them. I think that that's the lesson you're seeing a lot of athletes getting is like, don't let somebody bait you into attacking them. Don't let somebody goad you into saying something you don't really want to be saying.
In the public eye, athletes are expected to maintain a proper professional image, both in the virtual world and the real one. And on the college level, the stakes are even higher, as one slip-up could mean the difference between a one-game suspension or complete removal from the program. Newhouse Broadcasting grad student Keenan Dixon has seen it happen firsthand. From 2014 to 2018, he played quarterback for the Division III Dickinson College Red Devils football program. He recalls when one of his team captains landed in hot water after a picture he was taken in was posted online with a racist caption accompanying it.
The school came down harder on our captain than they did on the kid who actually made the post because of that football affiliation. And there's that representation of Dickinson football. So now you carry a higher standard.
Dixon also argues that because college players aren't compensated for their performance, they have no agency to be themselves. That's why when college players go pro and earn a check, you see so many personalities begin to pop up. Now, in doing research for this video, I managed to come up with two types of player personalities. The first is type A, your Shannon Sharps, your Jamal Adamses, your Cam Newtons, players with loud personalities that like to entertain fans just as much as they have fun playing the game. But they do so without being detrimental to their teams. They respect boundaries, they know when the joke runs too long, and they're team players through and through. And then there's type B, guys like Terrell Owens, Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham Jr., players who are beyond talented and produce huge numbers on the field, but they often put their own interests over those of the team, leading to conflicts in the locker room. Oftentimes, type B players are the ones that talking head sports shows focus on. Because, as YouTuber Brandon Perna puts it,
that's where the money is too.
Perna is the primary host of That's Good Sports, a comedy sports news show on YouTube that covers both the NFL and his hometown Denver Broncos. And even though he doesn't consider himself a journalist, Perna knows that to be on shows like First Take and Undisputed, you don't need to be one.
People want to be on ESPN, they want to be on Fox, and not many people get that opportunity, and those who do are going to be the guys who have mastered being outspoken and having a hot take and saying things that get people's attention, whether it's good or bad or right or wrong.
These hot takes often carry a heavy influence, not just on fans, but on players too. Take Antonio Brown, for example. During his 8 seasons with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Brown was widely regarded as the best wide receiver in the NFL, and yet his off-field incidents and internal struggles with teammates and coaches dominated sports headlines, and the more his antics were reported on, the more he'd act out. From dictating his own trade out of Pittsburgh to Oakland, to calling Raiders GM Mike Mayock a to having a slew of criminal charges pressed against him that are just too many to cover, Brown really went off the rails. On social media, he was even weirder, posting cryptic tweets and going on long rants on Instagram Live. And you can bet that sports media outlets just ate it up. They interviewed him, dedicated several segments to his antics. They even made a show dedicated to covering an NFL team during training camp all about him.
How do you say one of the biggest stars in all of sports and say, okay, need to report on this. I mean, he is a household name. My mom knows who Antonio Brown is. Are we going to make whatever stresses he's facing right now more challenging for him?
So what do we take away from all this? How do you balance making interesting sports news with managing the mental and emotional well-being of an athlete? Honestly, there's no clear-cut answer. In a perfect world, media outlets can try to place more focus on objective coverage and players can be better trained to handle criticism. But at the end of it all, that's not what we as sports fans like. Whether or not we want to admit it, we crave exaggerated hot takes and pointless debates from our sports media personalities. We want players to act out and dominate the headlines. We want to know that these major entities, these larger-than-life characters, are just as crazy, selfish, and hard-headed as we are. Is it selfish of us to want all that? Absolutely. Will it ever change? Probably not. But here's some sound advice from First Take's Stephen A. Smith to end on.
Stay off the weed.